my goal with politics done right is to reframe our minds, to reframe our self-worth, to reframe who we are, to reframe what we're worth, and to reframe what we demand. Because it took a very long time for us to lose it. It took a very long time for them to convince us that the ones who did all of the work weren't the ones who deserved the spoils. That brought the intellect wasn't necessarily the ones that were going to benefit. That the ones who create wasn't necessarily the ones who would succeed. But that is what we say must end. And it ends when we evolve into an economy made from sound solutions. Interestingly, today there was a discussion on one of MSNBC programs in the morning, and it had to do with whether Democrats can win if they just outwardly talk about capitalism as a problem. And it was great to see Anand Giridharadas come out there and hold his ground and tell the truth as the truth should have been told.
We ended up with President Trump. All of these issues, that status quo not working for a large portion of this country, voters said, I need something different. Joe Biden is now jumping in the race. And based on that message, it seems that he's saying, listen, Donald Trump is this moment in time. We don't want to have this moment go on any longer. Let's go back to the way things were.
So profoundly true. That video was an edit undo. The whole entirety of it was Trump is the problem. And I think Trump is a really big problem. That said, I think Trump is the kind of problem that is a symptom, right? Mm-hmm. Trump is a boil on your body that is actually a clue that you have a really big problem. You have some disease that you haven't gotten diagnosed. And if you say that the premise seemed to be things were great in America, and then Trump got in and besmirched the character of our country and made things ugly.
Except things were broken in America.
Who's the only person in this race who can't say that is Joe Biden, because he was vice president for the preceding 8 years that launched us into Trump. So he is actually the person least able to tell the truth in this Democratic primary about the fact that there were conditions of inequality, of anger, of dispossession, of rising racial resentment.
But Joe Biden and Barack Obama don't own that. Inequality is a massive problem around the world. It's not unique to the United States.
You're absolutely right, but here's one way in which they do. I think part of what is actually happening, the subtext is Democratic primaries. There's a reappraisal of the Obama years going on quietly when you talk to these campaigns, and I think there's a realization that Barack Obama was an extraordinary man, a person of great character, a person who did a lot of great things, a person who was incredibly hamstrung. But on the fundamental question of changing who has power in American life, changing whether capitalism is creating mobility or not.
But he wasn't handed a healthy economy. He was taking us out of a car
Barack
fire.
Obama is not as politically aggressive as many of the people running for the Democratic primary. And I don't think Barack Obama made it his point to fundamentally change power equations in this country in 8 years. And I think we're going to have a referendum on maybe Joe Biden continuing that approach, and others saying we're going to keep getting Trump-like figures over the next 30 to 40 years if we don't fundamentally change how America is working and who it's working for. And the next time we may get a Donald Trump, it actually may be someone who can read.
We have to realize one thing. The biggest problem and the big undercurrent in this entire debate is the economy. The economy is currently being spun as being flying on all cylinders. It's running perfectly so. And I'm glad for that, right? Because if we are at full employment, if the economy is working fine, it is booming, all of those things, according to the numbers, are true. You must ask yourself a very specific question. If that is true, why aren't most Americans not just making it, but flourishing, but building up their wealth, building up their equities in properties and all these other things? And with a big booming full economy, that is not happening. So the question becomes, if in a booming economy that cannot happen and the economy only has one place to go after it has boomed, what does that tell you about your future? What does that tell you about where we're going? What does that tell you about an economic system that functions like this? And that is how the economic system functions now. And that is how a mature capitalist economy has to function numerically by design. We have to change the paradigm. We have to change how people think, because we have been so indoctrinated into thinking that this is the way things are, this is the way they will be, and this is the way they must be. Let's get over that. And the way we get over that is self-worth and understanding how things really, really work. Friends, please click the button here and subscribe to the channel. That is how we get the message out.